What we're going to do is try and offer some sort of perspectives and principles on how you could work towards writing a conference paper. And the context for this is the following. In one of our previous videos, we said that as you're embarking on this journey of learning data science and artificial intelligence, if you had the opportunity to write a conference paper, you must absolutely grab it. And the reason for that is simple. It's a great experience, and notwithstanding that, it's an excellent way of actually building on the state of the art. So as we're embarking on this journey of saying, look, eventually we'd want to write a conference paper, there are three things that you need to start doing. Number one is reading. Number two is writing. And number three, you need to take feedback. One very important element is reading, right? So that's a great way of seeing, reading, understanding what other people are actually doing, what their points of view are. So the first thing that you should do is pick a bunch of papers, let's say even start with 3 papers, and identify what you liked in those papers. Identify perhaps what you didn't perhaps appreciate as much or like as much in those papers. And the third thing that you can actually do is make a 300-word summary of those papers, in particular highlighting the elements that you liked and perhaps some of the elements that you didn't like as much. So for example, you could say, I liked the idea, but I didn't quite like the analysis. I liked the analysis, but perhaps I didn't like the way they presented the simulation results. You could say that, look, I didn't actually like the idea so much, but I really liked the way they motivated that idea, right? So don't sort of worry just about what that paper is about, but if you can deconstruct it by saying what you liked, what you thought perhaps didn't resonate with you as much, but most importantly, condense it down to perhaps a 300-word summary of what the paper was all about, with particular attention to what you liked and perhaps what didn't resonate with you as much. So as we shift gears from sort of reading to writing, now writing is one of those things that you can continuously keep getting better and better and better. The more you write, the better you should sort of get. So let's offer a sort of potential working strategy. Pick a topic that is complex or interesting, anything that fascinates you, right? It could be climate change, it could be ChatGPT, anything that you actually like. Set out a set of assumptions and then argue for one page on your point of view. Now, anything that's interesting or complex will always have a multiple points of view, right? You're never going to have a sort of single point of view. There will always be a multiplicity of points of view. So pick a set of assumptions, pick a certain point of view, and argue through the lens of that point of view for perhaps one page. And do this exercise perhaps, if you can, ideally, maybe once a week, maybe once a fortnight, maybe once a month. But if you just go through this process of identifying a topic, identifying a set of assumptions, identifying a point of view, and arguing through that point of view, you will find that your sort of writing skills, your ability to articulate, position your point of view, especially in complex domains, will get better and better over time. What makes us better at any activity, and certainly writing over time, is not just doing that activity, but actually seeking feedback, especially from our peers. So here's something that you can actually do. Once you've written your one-pager, share it with 3 of your friends, 3 of your colleagues, and ask them for feedback on what you have written. And what I find makes it easier for people to give feedback if you have a structure to the feedback, and if that structure is as simple as possible. So the simplest thing you could say is, please read this and give me one point that you really liked, and perhaps one point that you didn't like or didn't like as much. So a simplistic sort of format for feedback also really helps, but feedback on the whole is extremely critical, especially as we aim to improve our capability, our ability of communicating, in this particular case, perhaps say writing about complex subjects. So what we've offered so far is a sort of working strategy to get ourselves warmed up. The eventual goal, let's say, is to write a paper or conference paper in this area of data science and AI, but we need to kind of get warmed up, right? And in that warm-up process, we said reading papers, writing and developing our skill sets along the lines of writing, and then getting feedback were critical ingredients. Now, when you look at the paper itself, then there are three critical ingredients to a paper, right? Or at least three critical ingredients. One is generating the idea. The second is fleshing the idea out. And the third is communicating the idea. And each of these have their own sort of dynamics, have their own sort of principles, so to speak. They have their own working principles, so to speak. And that's something that we can sort of talk about at a later stage. But for now, to actually just get started, just to start getting warmed up, if you started reading papers, if you started sort of this habit of writing perhaps a one-pager once a week or once in fortnight or once a month, and then getting feedback, then essentially you've made an important step and you actually started getting warmed up towards this eventual goal of writing a paper. So let's try and keep this as conversational as possible. So if there's anything in the video that perhaps was not very clear, or if there's anything that you want me to flesh out some more, or if there was an immediate sort of follow-up question that comes to your mind as a direct consequence of anything that has actually been said in the video, then any of these queries or questions, please feel free to actually put it in the comment section, and I will certainly aim to address them, because this will help and aid in keeping the sort of dialogue as conversational as possible.